Right. Yes.
Yes, Jerry, do you have any comment?
Um, well, I want the education when you're talking about how we can help the leaders of the different nations to do a better job. I know I have quite a few friends that are in government, and we've had a few guests on and discussed foreign policy and so forth. As far as and well, first I have to point out that when we talk about the Middle East, and a lot of we have a lot of politics that want to exclude religion from that. I think that is a big mistake because there are a lot of people, especially in the West, that don't realize that the Middle East religion. That when you hear religion and politics here in the States, it's almost taboo. People just they can't really handle that idea because they go back, they look at the the Orthodox Crusades and stuff like that. You go back to the Salem witch trials and they say, well, all this stuff was religion. This is what religion gets governments. But that is not today's world. There are a lot of people in leadership positions today that I think need educated too, as far as what is going on in the Middle East. Because I know a few political friends of mine I've talked to, they really are very narrow of the view when they come to talking about the Middle East or foreign policy. They really don't know a whole lot about the Middle East. And I think this is one problem that we have with our political leaders, and not just in the U.S., this is worldwide, that these leaders also need to have a good education of what the other cultures are, and not just how the religious outlook is in those cultures, but how the social outlook is in those cultures. Because, like talking about the Middle East and not talking about religion is like talking about swimming without talking about having any water. I mean,
Right.
it's I guess the word would be faux pas, because I think it's a big mistake not to do that. You cannot just discount that much of a culture that is that big in the politics. A lot of people will say, well, religion doesn't have anything to do with politics. Well, religion affects politics. That's just a reality. And to say it doesn't is to pretty much, I think, ignore a big side of where that influence politically comes from worldwide. The same way, there are a lot of things that affect the politics and the way the nations get along that a lot of people will say, no, this isn't a problem, and yes, it is. So we need honesty when it comes to looking at it. And I agree with Alexander totally when he said that we need people looking at these things realistically. And there are a lot of people that call themselves Muslim or call themselves Jews or call themselves Christians, and anybody can take a title. But without living that religion and without showing other people that religion, without bigotry involved in it, I think that is where we get a lot of the problems. And a lot of this is from Romanticism, and this is from being taught from a young age and from coming up in cultures or in families where Romanticism is actually taught. Like, if you're going to be a good Muslim, then this is what you have to do. If you're going to be a good Jew, this is what you have to do. If you're going to be a good Christian, this is what you have to do. But what the people that are being taught this, I think, and a lot of the problem we're having is they're not being taught to go by the books. They're being taught by other people that are putting their ideas into this. So religious education across the board is very important. I think whether people are religious or not, people need to take a realistic approach at religion and realize that it is real. It's a fact of life, and the more that people know about all of the religions, especially the three Abrahamic religions, the more they know, the more they can understand, the more we can work together. And we also, there are people, there are groups in Nigeria. We have Impact, MPAC, which are bringing Muslims and Christians together in their works. They're having services together, they're having dinners together, they're having meetings together. And I think a lot of this needs to go on a lot more around the world. And it is something that is spreading around the world. It's just very slowly. I think the last few years we've seen more of this going on than we have previously, which is a good thing. But above all, the most important thing here, whether they're political leaders, religious leaders, or in the family, it's got to be education. and the right kind of education, morality and integrity and respect. Without realizing another person's religion and respecting that, all you're going to get in return is the same in return. You cannot expect to get respect from somebody you're not giving respect to. You can not expect to force something on somebody without expecting them to force something back. So we definitely have to keep people educated and keep the lines of communication open.